Hi, I'm Gavin,
And I'm Dave.
and you're on the fringe.
Come along with us for a ride on a podcast where we talk about an area or a thing going on in the world that needs more attention, just like you do. Let's go.
On the fringe. Here we go.
You're on, Gavin.
Hey, 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 we're on the fringe. I'm Gavin. This is my good friend Dave. And
Howdy.
today, we're talking about a part of the world that we've talked about many times before. And we're talking about the country of Ethiopia in the Horn of Africa in East Africa, and why it's in the news once again for something not particularly lovely.
No, no, it's not. And generally, if you guys see anything about Ethiopia or this part of the world in the news, it's going to be negative. But that's just the type of news that gets reported from this part of the world. So, Gavin, what's going on over in Ethiopia right now?
Well, right now, there are serious, serious rumors and tensions related to their neighbor to the north, the small country of Eritrea. Ethiopia and Eritrea have a pretty fractious relationship, and it has become more fractious to the extent that the Ethiopian president has had to come out and publicly say, president or prime minister, sorry,
Yeah,
has had to come out
obviously.
and
Yeah.
publicly say that he is not interested in invading Eritrea and that it would not be a good thing. Let me give you all a PR tip. If you have to have a press conference to tell people that you're not interested in invading a country, this is generally not a good thing. This is not something that bodes well for the diplomatic situation. Um,
No.
Now,
And
Dave,
uh-huh.
why does Ethiopia have it in for Eritrea?
Well, there's a lot of things going on between these two countries. They were together at one time after World War II, and then in 1993, Eritrea became independent after a war with Ethiopia, and could go down a rabbit hole about a recent war in the Tigray part of Indonesia, but we're not going to do that.
It's a
But
whole different episode, yeah.
but Ethiopia is looking for a port. Ethiopia feels like its destiny is to have a port on the Red Sea
Yeah.
somewhere, and the country is desperate to have a port that it has full control over.
And it has been scraping to do this for some time. Earlier in this year, there was some news on a deal with Somalia that kind of emerged from a situation where Ethiopia was trying to cut a sort of a backroom deal with the breakaway region of Somaliland to get a port through there. The federal government of Somalia was not happy about this. There was a war of words. There was concerns about actual war. Eventually, the Turkish government got involved. They negotiated a sit down. That situation has smoothed over, but now Ethiopian rhetoric about Eritrea is kind of off the charts. It just sort of in terms of grandiosity, I would guess. There's a lot of, you pointed out this to me, Dave, there's a lot of AI generated content circulating, mostly showing big, beautiful Ethiopian ships sailing out of Eritrean harbors. That has not been helping things. Um, yeah, it's just it's a bit of a situation. So right now, most of the Ethiopian shipping and overland logistics goes through what country?
Go through Djibouti, right
Djibouti.
next
So
door, another small country that borders
a
Ethiopia.
very, very small country, formerly a French colony, very tiny pretty much just a city and a port. That's Djibouti. It's very tiny. Djibouti has basically made its fortune by renting itself out to foreign countries that want to have port space for their navies. So there's a US military base, there's a French military base, there's a Chinese military base. Everyone's there. They tried to cut a deal with Ethiopia and all of this. They already have a pretty close relationship. They said, okay, this is clearly something that's important to you. We can give you a port. That's not a problem. We can give you your own port. We can give you a base, or at least we can give you the land for a base. You can build a Navy base here. That's fine. We'll give you a lease. We'll give you a whole legal deal. We can do a package real nice. We'll have a direct connection to Ethiopia through the train line that's opened. You'll be fine. Uh, the Ethiopians have basically quietly rejected this because there are problems with the idea of doing things on someone else's terms. The Ethiopian state right now is very clear that they want to do everything on their terms. The problem is that that attitude is inevitably going to lead to some kind of conflict, and at this stage, it's probably going to be armed.
Yeah, and with all of these problems going on between Ethiopia and most of its neighbors, it's very likely that some kind of conflict is going to break out, and it's going to be very disruptive within the region.
And again, we always like to talk about here on the fringe. Uh, Problems are not contained. Problems affect everyone. So if there is an issue, if there is a major disruption in the Horn of Africa, anywhere in the Horn, but particularly right now in the Red Sea, that is going to have knock-on effects. It's going to have knock-on effects on shipping. It's going to have knock-on effects on the neighbors, some of which, like South Sudan, already basically on the brink of a civil war. Um, this is going to radically destabilize a pretty big swath of a very important part of Africa. So,
Yep.
and as you and I both know, I think we've mentioned this before, Ethiopia and Eritrea both have very large diaspora communities, particularly in the United States. There are a lot of Ethiopian Americans, there are a lot of Eritrean Americans. And when this goes on, even though it's, thousands of miles away, literally, it really does have an effect. It has a very large effect on those communities. Um, so this is, this may sound very far away, but it's not. It's affecting people where you live.
That it is. And hopefully it does not affect them any more than it is going to.
All right. Well, thank you for listening. This is On the Fringe. We appreciate any likes, comments, subscribes, shares, and we will talk to you soon. Thank you very much for listening.